A senior official with Iran's Revolutionary Guard says renewed fighting with the U.S. seems unlikely, but that assessment comes as the IRGC released this video. They claim it shows what's left of a U.S. Reaper drone that was shot down by Iranian Defense Forces. Now, in that same statement, a top Iranian military official also warned that Iran has the right to respond to any violation of the ceasefire that's been in place since April. I'm joined now by CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata. Charlie, thanks for your time today. Could we see attacks from both sides continue in this war?
Yeah, the short answer, Mugo, is yes, and at any time. And let's talk about that drone for starters, right? So if that drone is what we think it is, a Reaper drone, they've lost somewhere around 24 of those. Some have been shot down, some have been lost in other circumstances, but those cost between 16 and 24 million each, depending on how it's kitted out. So that is no small thing to lose a Reaper drone. Thank goodness there are no personnel involved, and that's why they have been sort of buzzing the Strait of Hormuz. Some of them are surveillance, but they can also attack. But it also shows the capability of the Iranians. These are anti-air defenses, so they're clearly in place, and that can reach fighter jets as well. In fact, according to Iran, they turned back an F-35 fighter jet that was kind of accompanying that drone on the same sort of mission, so overflying Iran. So the capability is there. I want to keep reminding our viewers that the USS Abraham Lincoln, the aircraft carrier, and its strike group, including around 12 guided missile destroyers, they have not left that neighborhood. I was in Israel a couple of weeks ago, and I saw, and this is reportable, we've seen all kinds of refuelers there. I mean, dozens of them there with U.S. personnel. All of those are still in place, so they are still forward postured. And the U.S. military, from last Friday, honestly, Muga, we were looking at going into special reports because it looked as if there was going to be a resumption of military hostilities between both Iran and the United States at any moment. So although there may be a lull, don't think that they're just sort of floating around at sea waiting for something to happen. They are fully postured, and so are the Iranians. They still have between 50 and 75% of their missile capacity, including their launchers. So there's a hair trigger on all of this. So even as these really high-level talks are going on, and even though there's some mood music coming out of Pakistan and other places, that there may be progress as far as the U.S. military is concerned and as far as the messaging coming from Iran, both of these sides are ready to resume. And I may as well go ahead and throw Israel into that as well.
Wow. Charlie, this war has gone on for weeks now, and we know President Trump has called out U.S. engagement in other wars that lasted for months or even years. He has said that that is an issue. That's not what this was going to be. It's an excursion. But what could a drawn-out engagement with Iran look like?
It really depends on what the U.S. military would call a strike package. So even with the military assets that are in place, there's nothing anywhere near the kind of troops or assets that would support a ground invasion. So let's just take that off the table for now. Okay. But in terms of strikes, I spoke to U.S. military commanders and their assistants and spokespeople who tell me that, yes, they could go after the energy infrastructure as President Trump has threatened, to go after, bridges, to go after power grids, to make it really difficult for Iranians and for export oil, etc. Of course, that's going to have an impact on global markets, and everybody's fully aware of that. But that is part of the strike package that they're considering. In addition to that, going after the Strait of Hormuz, going after it and taking it back by force. And that would mean firing missiles at emplacements, Iranian emplacements along the coast, which are dug in. They're under mountains. They are fully capable. I mean, just on Sunday, the U.S. military launched attacks on missile launchers along that strait and took out boats that were laying mines. So even during the ceasefire, there has been some of these breaks that has seen some hostility. Yeah. So as far as Iran's concerned, they're going to go after Israel again because they have the capability to do so. And they've also said they're going to open up on any Gulf states that have been supporting the United States. So we are really where we were back in February in terms of that military heightness and the United States deciding at any time what they're going to attack. But that strike package, as they call it, is in place to take out multiple targets. And as we've seen in the past, that usually goes hand in hand with the Israelis targeting regime targets inside Iran as well. So that's where we stand. I know that sounds alarmist, but if it were to go again, that's what it might look like.
And so when you say that, I mean, I have to ask, because there are lots of Americans who have been affected economically by this war. Do you see this war? I know you can't see into the future, but do you see this war going on for even weeks to come? I mean, last week it seemed like, oh, okay, we hear from President Trump saying this is going to be over very soon. And now it seems like we're back to square one with still no progress. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I wouldn't exactly call it square one because Iran has been extremely degraded. I won't use the kind of words that the Pentagon has used in terms of what they've done to the regime, obliterated, taken out their missile capabilities, whatever. The Israelis have a much more sober view of Iranian capability because, I was there, they take fire. It's very real if you're in Israel and you see those things come in, and the capability of Iran is very clear when you're running to a shelter. So that remains, and that happened right up until the ceasefire. And during the ceasefire, and this is what's worrying, is that they would have been rearming and repositioning. So a protracted war, it's what you would call a victory. I don't think anybody has sort of war gamed out that the Iranians are going to surrender by any stretch of the imagination. Their leadership is still in place. The noise out of the leadership says that they're going to continue. So at what point do you declare victory? I guess opening the strait would be a big one, but if the Iranians don't agree to that, that will have to be done by force.
We'll see what comes next. Charlie D'Agata, as always, we appreciate your time and your insight. Thank you.